Developed by Necrosoft Games and published by Ysbryd Games, Demonschool has a release date of 2025 and is available on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Windows, macOS, and Linux. Game code supplied by Stride PR for review. Howdy. Welcome back, I guess. You can tell probably from the thumbnail and or the title, this is the Storymoders review of Demonschool. It's finally coming out on September 3rd. This review just had to be done super quick, because hold on. Sorry, that's my phone. As you may know, the game has been postponed until Wednesday, November 19th, so... Okay, well, be right back. Little editor's note, for all of this gameplay footage, I played the game on a Steam Deck. It ran wonderfully, it ran beautifully. I had it connected to the dock, so I was playing it on my TV with a controller. For the first maybe 10 or so hours, I had my HDR settings all out of whack, so a lot of the footage looks kind of dark and kind of washed out. Once I figured it out, which you'll see on the screen right about now, just looks much more vibrant. So if you're looking at some of the footage during this and you're thinking, wow, this game looks kind of washed out, this game looks really dark, that's all on me. But I'm going to put some later gameplay in during the video, so you'll be able to see a lot of much more vibrant colors and everything. Enjoy, and spoilers, Demonschool is awesome. Demonschool is a new style tactics RPG where motion equals action. With hints of Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, and Italian horror cinema, you'll do battle with gigantic demons, and then normal human-sized demons, and then some smaller demons. Just demons of all sizes, really, and cops, so, you know, demons. As Faye and her misfit companions, while also trying to navigate a mysterious island, and the scariest thing of all, college. If, like me, your biggest touchstones to this game's inspirations are the Persona games, post-Persona 2 duology, it's a nice change of pace to have a main character whose story is more than just normal kid shows up at a weird school and weird stuff starts happening. Now, don't get me wrong, Faye does show up at a new school and weird stuff does start happening, but Faye is far from normal, and that is awesome. I love playing as the weird kid, as opposed to playing as the normie who learns everything from the weird kid. Faye came to the school with a purpose in mind, and she's not going to let some silly thing like not knowing anybody get in her way, and that's pretty admirable if you ask me. First thing she does on the ferry ride to Hemsk Island, where the game takes place, is walk directly up to Namiko, inform her of the upcoming apocalypse and the return of demons, and explain to her, once again a complete stranger, why demonology is actually rich with nuance. When they arrive at the island, and some pushy gangsters try to tell Namiko to get back on the ferry and head home, Faye immediately steps up to help her new friend, leading us directly into the battle tutorial. This is where the phrase motion equals action comes into play. During fights, your turn is divided into two halves. The planning stage, where you plan all of your actions, and the action stage, where you action all of your plans. That works. Let's get a little technical. At the beginning of the planning stage, you have a shared pool of 8 action points. 1, 2, 3, 4... 8, with each subsequent action from a character costing 1 more point than the previous action. I'll explain. Let's say you kick it off by spending 1 point to have Namiko perform a sidestep and then pass through an enemy. She has a phaser, so she doesn't actually do damage, but when she passes through an enemy, it stuns them, causing them to lose their turn, and they take more damage from another hit, which now gives Faye the opportunity to spend 1 action point, move diagonally, and defeat that stunned enemy. Great! Right? Well, what if you could rewind your choices, and instead of having Faye make her first move, you spend 2 action points to have Namiko stun a second enemy, and then line them up, so that when Faye makes her move, she's defeating 2 enemies at once. Pretty sweet, right? It's better. 2's more than 1. Here's 2, here's 1. Look at that. Being able to make as many changes as you want before locking it in gives you the opportunity to experiment with a bunch of different strategies before actually committing to anything. There's nothing more satisfying in the game than taking a couple of minutes, planning out your perfect run, and advancing to the action stage and watching your choices play out in full speed. Being prepared for the fight is just as important as the actions that you make, and Demonschool gives you all the tools you need to succeed in this regard. Before starting that first planning stage, you can take a look at the stats of all the enemies on screen, and most importantly, take a look at the attacks that they're going to be dishing out. Enemy attacks will either be dark, curse, or spirit in nature. And each character that you can have on your team will have different weaknesses and resistances. For example, Namiko is weak to curse attacks, but resists dark attacks. What this means is that a dark attack will do 1 fewer point of damage to Namiko, whereas a curse attack will do 1 extra point of damage to Namiko. Each character has 3 hit points per fight. So if you've got multiple enemies that do curse damage, that'll take 2 hits to Namiko and she's gone. But if you have multiple enemies that do dark damage, she can take a lot more hits, especially if they're doing 1 damage, it just negates that damage completely. So being able to plan your team in the menu before you even start the fight is vital. So if you look at the enemies and they're all doing dark attacks, Namiko is going to be perfect for you. But maybe Newt should stay on the sidelines. Conversely, if they all hit with curse attacks, maybe you want to hold Namiko back. But then you should put Destin out on the front lines with Faye. That is, unless you have the right equipment assigned to each character. Because instead of a traditional RPG leveling system, Demonschool uses an equipment system, very unique for them. Equipment pieces are separated into 2 categories, abilities and shifts. Abilities can add to your attack, like stun or fire. And the way that fire works in this game is great, because if one enemy is on fire, then every turn that fire can jump to any neighboring enemies, and so on and so on and so on. Some abilities can even negate a character's weaknesses, or even make them impervious to any sort of status ailment. And in a few very specific cases, they even change the weapon that a character will use, or a familiar that a character will use. We won't get into that. You'll find out when you play the game. And shifts primarily deal with your HP and movement on the board. Like weaknesses and resistances, each character has their own unique movement pattern and attacking style, with these pieces of equipment allowing you to mix and match and make the kind of characters that you want, for the most part. Personally, my Faye has a shift assigned to her that allows her to teleport if she hits the edge of a board, which is really helpful when you're trying to get behind an enemy so that they can't hit you. Another character, no spoilers, don't worry, has 2 abilities assigned that go together. One that adds fire to each attack, leaving enemies burning, which once again, like we said, will have those flames jump from another character to another character. And another that makes it so that fire heals 1 HP per turn instead of damages them 1 HP per turn. Necrosoft has done a great job at making each character feel unique with their own personalities and quirks, and the social links, for lack of a better term, to build up those relationships with characters are an even brighter spot in a game full of bright spots. For anyone familiar to our channel and our podcast, you'll know that I am a sucker for social links in my game. I love them, and Demonschool does not disappoint. Each of their stories feels very personal to them, and none of them will make you dread spending time with them, unlike a certain gourmet king in some other game. Lost Media buff Newt has you chasing down a mythical VHS tape. Himbo Destin's fear of a snake uprising leads to the 2 of you hunting down giant snake men that may or may not exist. And photographer Namiko gets caught up being a wedding photographer for the 2 most insufferable people that you'll ever see in any game, with a whole host of others for all the characters that can join your team. In addition to learning about each other character, these links also help the player get to know more about Faye, who shares bits of her life story with her friends while growing closer. Plus, as you wander around the town, you'll interact with a bunch of different locals, each with their own wants and worries. I'm just happy that the red bag wanter got her red bag. You'll see, and you'll be as touched as I was. Now, as much praise as I've been lobbing onto the game, and it's very, very deserved, I do have some hang-ups. The biggest would have to be the minigames that Necrosoft has added into the game. There's nothing wrong with them, per se. They're fun bits of QTE distractions that are going to be your primary way of building relationships. You could take Newt out for karaoke, where you have to use specific words in each of your lyrics, or you can cook a nice meal for Namiko, where you've got to match symbols to get the recipes right. And as long as you don't fail them, which you can fail them, you'll raise your little relationship meter, bringing you closer and closer to those breakthrough social link missions with each character. But outside of those relationship boosts, there doesn't seem to be any other reason for them to be there other than to say, hey, we have the minigames. Fishing does have a side mission to it, and you do get an achievement for catching them all. Just go in. Beetle racing is there sometimes, and you even have the option to cheat at it, but there's nothing gained from it. You don't get any sort of combat boosts. There's no additional perks in fights if you max out relationships. The world doesn't change if you catch any of the fish or all of the fish, or win a beetle race without cheating. It's all just there. I hate to compare the game to anything else directly, but it's hard to make my mind not go directly to Persona 5 and their social links and minigames and how they work. In Persona 5, ranking up a character's friendship can unlock new abilities like the Baton Pass, and playing minigames with them can raise your technical rank, which allows you to do extra damage for technical hits. Fishing nets, pun 100% intended, points depending on what you catch, which you can then trade in for equipment or for Velvet Room materials. This gives you more incentive to spend time with the characters and play these minigames, making it feel like doing so gives you something in the game. Maybe Necrosoft could have added some higher tier equipment specific to each character that you can only get if you max out their friendship, or even like a damage bump to the combo moves that you could do with each character. Just kind of anything outside of the admittedly super adorable smooching scene you can get with most of the characters that you max out friendships with. As it stands, if you're not into building out these relationships because you're not going to get a perk for them, the minigames don't really offer any reason to do them more than once, or in some cases even one time. Outside of the minigame thoughts and some weird bugs that I ran into with this review build that have already been fixed with updates, and good job, I don't really have any complaints. The gameplay loop itself is really fun, with enough variety to keep each in-game week feeling fresh. The story has plenty of twists and turns, with challenges popping up that are going to keep you on your toes. If you're a person like me who will just make a completely overpowered build and just bulldoze through the game, you're not going to be able to do that here, which is not a bad thing, trust me. Oh, and don't sleep on the credits. Demonschool probably has the best credits sequence that I've ever seen in a game. Everyone from each team is named alongside their role on the team. This includes event staff and localization teams, etc. But most impressively, a lot of people on the team have what they specifically worked on listed out. It sets a new standard for game credits, in my opinion. Bravo, Necrosoft, Ysbryd Games, the entire team there. I know I just said a lot of words in a row, but to sum it all up, damn, Demonschool is awesome. We've been working on figuring out a scoring system here at Storymoders, and in our last review of Wheel World, which you can go check out now on our channel, somebody came up with the idea of maybe basing it around beer, you know, like maybe a number system with beers. I'm not entirely sure. We're still trying to figure it out. So I don't know, let's say if a keg of beer is worth 20 points, then a stein is worth 5, and then like a, you know, just Coke, but you know, just a normal can is worth 2 points. Demonschool gets, I don't know, 3 kegs, a stein, and 2 cans. What is that? Nice. Bye, Demonschool. Cheers.